Haters to Rumble Channel 2 please. All haters to Rumble Channel 2 please. For haters of Rick Walker, Sanctuary is available in the chat on Rumble Channel 2. Your safe space is on Rumble Channel 2. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live. From the Maverick News Network, World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
I can feel your anger.
Haters to Rumble Channel 2, please. Haters to Rumble Channel 2. We have a lot to share with you tonight. Welcome back, everyone. Homeless encampment, tent city. It's a problem facing many communities across Canada and the United States, but it's a more of a relatively new thing across Canada that has really become a bigger problem just in the past few years. So tonight, there is, in my community, a special emergency meeting happening at the local municipal council chambers because there's a really big tent city that has been dismantled, moved from an area down on the Thames River here in Chatham-Kent, Ontario, Canada, to a location just about in my backyard. So tonight, there are delegations speaking, even right now. We're going to go live there in just a moment. And the thing to take note of here is that I don't, in all the people who are on the list of speakers, approved delegations tonight, I don't think there's a single person from the homeless encampment who's on the list. So tonight, as always, here on Maverick News, we give voice to the voiceless. I went to the homeless encampment today and interviewed a couple of the people who were willing to appear on camera so that they could share their stories, their experience over there with me, with you. So I'm the eyes and ears of the public, and I was there for you guys today so that you can better understand what this issue is really all about. We'll get the presentations from the approved delegations over at City Hall, and we'll talk to the people who are homeless to find out what their issues really are. Some of this will just be old hat to many of you, maybe most of you, because we keep hearing these things over and over and over again, all these arguments, all these pseudo solutions, and nothing really ever seems to get us to an actual solution. So we're going to dig into that issue tonight in real time. And we have a lot of delegations over at the municipal offices here in my hometown, which also brings me to Isabel, who is really mad at me because I let her speak. And she didn't choose her words carefully enough, I guess. And so we're in a little bit of a tug of war, her and I, friction. She's really pissed. And so she, is over there on Rumble Channel 2, adding to the tsunami of hate directed at me. That's okay, Isabel. You can do that. I think to some degree being egged on by my excellent, super great friend, Chris, raising wolves. So it's reaching kind of a fever pitch, and I'm told that there are a lot of people who are disappointed they couldn't get into Rumble Channel 2 last night to add to the hate directed at me because we weren't on last night. So I apologize for that. I had to leave town yesterday to work out of town, and I just did not get back in time to properly prepare for the program, and so I just couldn't come on and do the program last night. But we're back tonight. But this brings me back to Isabel. See, Isabel has been kind of hammering on me, telling me that I just don't get it. And, you know, she has this little company called Bubble Gifts, and I think that's what it is. Anyway, she says, you know, I don't get it. I live in a bubble, she tells me. And I haven't got a clue what's going on out there. And anyway, all this coming from Isabel has inspired me to prepare something special for her, but you're going to have to wait until the end of the program. Izzy, because I've got something special for you, just for you. Well, and for Chris, and maybe a couple of other people too, but it's mostly inspired by you, and I hope you enjoy it. It is later on in the broadcast, because we've got to get to this homeless issue. Plus, you know, there's other top news of the day today. I hope we get to this stuff too, but this is all going to consume a fair amount of time tonight. All this other stuff, and not the least of which is, there's this guy on an airplane. They had to redirect the flight because he was saying he had a bomb on board, and he was saying death to Donald Trump and Allah Akbar. And we've got the video of that, by the way. Also, what else is there? Stephen Harper, who I thought, you know, my personal opinion, editorializing, I thought he was one of the best, maybe the best prime minister in Canadian history. Conservative. And today, what are we seeing from him? He is saying that Mark Carney sought out his advice on this trade war with the United States. And what he had to say about this today might surprise some of you. And it was like a breath of fresh air coming from the conservative side for me, listening to what Stephen Harper had to say. And we'll hopefully have time to at least touch on that tonight as well. So lots to dig into this evening. Stay with me. We're going to come back on the other side, and we'll get into this whole homeless encampment tent cities issue, which is affecting the entire country, and it has come home to roost right here in my backyard, where I'm told I live an insulated, wonderful life by some people, and I just don't get it, because everything here is just a bed of roses. We don't have any immigrants here, apparently. We don't have any drug problems. I just don't know what the hell is going on. Oh, except that there is this whole thing in my backyard. See you on the other side of this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV.
The entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
So the homeless encampment issue really, boy, when did it start in my town? I first really kind of took note of the tent city thing 2 years ago, maybe longer ago than that. I know that we started to have people, appear on the streets, more of a homeless problem. And for me, it just seemed to really take hold right around the time Trudeau was elected and marijuana became legalized. Anecdotal, maybe, but drugs have always been an issue when it comes to homelessness. We have a really serious drug problem now in my community, as we do across the entire country, plus mental health issues. The economy is an issue. We have a lot of different things that contribute to this problem, the homeless problem, but never in Canadian history do I ever remember this level of homelessness, and we certainly haven't seen it manifest itself in the establishment of like tent cities. Well, first became aware of this about, as a real visible problem about 2 years ago in my community. Some people downtown, there were about three of these locations, small ones. They began to grow, two of them in the downtown area, right along the Thames River. For the most part, the people there kept to themselves. Well, recently, within the last month, the municipality here kicked them all out because they need to do some work on the riverbank, or so we are told. So all the homeless people down there got the boot, tent city. I went down there. It was about a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago, as you may recall, and I did address the issue then in my town. Just spoke to some people who were living in the tent city community, the encampment, and it was enlightening. Not surprising. As a journalist, I've dealt with many different stories regarding homelessness over the years. This is a little bit different, just because of the tent cities being established. Anyway, they all got the boot, and within the last few weeks, they've been reestablished. They moved them all to a place right next to a water treatment plant, which is in my neighborhood. It is like quite literally almost in my backyard. So my neighbors very upset, the whole neighborhood up in arms, a lot of concerns, a lot of different people with different views on this. They're all down at the town hall here right now. This is going on in communities right across the country. That's why I bring it here to you tonight live, because what's happening here has been happening and continues to happen in small towns, big cities, medium-sized cities. It's everywhere. It literally is everywhere. And it has come home to roost right here in my community. And how we respond, I think, is also a reflection of what kind of human beings we are. So let's go right now live to Chatham-Kent Council offices. Here we go.
Drug paraphernalia have all been photographed by people and reported. There's no access to fresh water, hygiene stations in the area, which means that residents are resorting to seeking sources from nearby private property. Those of us with pools are concerned. We don't want to see anybody harmed on our property, but we understand that could happen. It's realistic. Our property was broken into last year. There was no homeless encampment, but fences don't keep people out. Right? Our pool pump was stolen. It's accessible even if you lock. Requests by several Ward 6 councillors for a stakeholders meeting were deemed as unnecessary. We reached out to our MP and our MPP. People began to feel powerless and disrespected. We were labeled as NIMBYistic, which is kind of ironic because as the people closest to this encampment, we're seeing this crisis unfold and escalate daily. It's not going away. The news said probably temporary. They're going to go to the tiny cabins. They're not. There aren't supports for this clientele. We're failing them.
In another part of our city, they set up tiny homes just in the last few months as well.
We have a bird's eye view and a constant reminder that it's probably going to get larger. This encampment's not getting smaller. Rock Mission's who to call list includes direction to 311 for the cleanup of needles, sharps, garbage, abandoned belongings, human waste. It also offers useful numbers for non-emergency police and community paramedics.
Rock Missions is helping the people
we
there.
weren't
They
given
also
that.
helped them move what they
Nobody
could
was prepared to address
from
these obviously
the downtown area
predictable
to this new location.
situations that we might encounter. We've missed an opportunity to educate people, to mobilize for advocacy. We are despairing for the future of that space and of the people that are living there. We had to lobby long and hard to get this meeting. It should have been different. We should have felt like we're part of helping, not feeling like we're the enemy in a situation which is terrible for all. We need to put pressure on the province, and without data, they're not logging 311 calls. We can't speak to our need if we can't prove what our need is. I'm not going to harass City Council by calling you every day and not have a log of why this is important. Data speaks. We need to contact provincial. We need to rally the troops for our municipality, for our people. And I'm not asking you to take sides. There aren't sides, there's just people. We're people too. We live there. We could have been included.
That's time.
We weren't.
Thank you.
Do better.
On deck is Tyler McKeag, and, sorry, up now is Tyler. On deck is John Barrett on the Zoom call.
Do we have the picture?
Meredith may try to get it up for you.
Okay, thank you. I'll get started. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Tyler McKeag, and I'm here representing 4 different local groups. The Scrub Hub Car and Dog Wash, Bees Knees Ice Cream, Chatham Youth Beach Volleyball, and Chatham Youth Soccer. I appreciate the opportunity to speak not just on behalf of these organizations, but the hundreds of families, youth, and small business owners directly impacted by the recent relocation of the homeless encampment beside our property. So thank you for putting up the map. Just to give you an idea, it's a little hard to see, but we're right across the street. Thank you. Right across the street, so this impacts us directly. There are many opinions on how to solve this issue, and while I do have strong beliefs on the right path forward, I'm going to use my time tonight to focus on the very real and personal impact this encampment has had, is already having on our businesses, our employees, our kids, and the community. We'll start with the dog and car wash, located directly across the street from the new encampment. This is a predominantly cash-based business with coin-operated machines that have been targeted repeatedly over the past 2 weeks. Since the encampment moved in, we've seen a massive increase in attempted break-ins, vandalism, and harassment. Visiting customers have shared their hesitations about being harassed while in a vulnerable spot while they're cleaning their cars or their pets. We've made dozens of calls to police, many in the middle of the night, but the problem still persists even during the day. I've personally confronted individuals attempting to break into our different machines in our mechanical room while I was standing just a few feet away. These aren't customers. This is private property, and we no longer feel safe on it. We've literally had an issue every single day since the tents started moving over there. Vandalism and attempted break-ins have already cost us into the thousands, just enough of a pain in the butt that the insurance deductibles won't cover it. This comes right out of our pockets. Now let's talk about the ice cream trailer. It's our seasonal business that operates on the same site. We employ 9 teenagers and 2 adults, all of whom have become increasingly anxious about the safety risks posed by the steady stream of unpredictable foot traffic from this encampment. We've already had multiple incidents requiring police involvement. As a result, our sales have dropped significantly. This is supposed to be our busiest and most profitable time of the year, and instead we're considering shutting it down to protect the kids that work there. Our property taxes at this location are over $12,000 a year, and if this is the new reality, we're expected to accept what's the municipality going to do about our taxes? Are we going to cut our taxes in half or more? Moving on to Chatham Youth Beach Volleyball. We run weekday programming for youth aged 12 to 18, right behind the car wash. We currently have more than 130 athletes registered, including my own kids. Despite our best efforts to ensure their safety, we've had multiple parents express concern. A few have already pulled their kids out of the program until this is solved. They don't feel safe, and honestly, I can't blame them. Finally, Chatham Youth Soccer. We've got a group of young ladies here. Do you want to stand up? I'm so happy they're here to see how this works and how we can make change. Thank you, ladies. For years, local teams have used the nearby fields behind the water treatment plant. This season, my daughter's 15U team has already canceled practices at this location, and with Chatham Soccer, they're scrambling to find other space elsewhere. It's just simply too dangerous to pass through the area anymore. I know there are many kids and other teams who practice here who are trying to deal with the same challenges. Many kids from the surrounding neighborhoods walk to practice, which is also not an option anymore. Thankfully, nothing catastrophic has happened at this new location yet. No fires, significant assaults or fatalities that we know of yet. But how long until that changes? How long until a child is hurt or worse? And when that day comes, who's going to be responsible? On a bright note, the police response has been swift and very professional in all situations. So I want to thank them for not having to resort to vigilante justice yet. So I appreciate that. I'm not here just to complain about these things. I'm here that council shows some leadership. If we as a municipality don't have the backbone to address this issue quickly and permanently, then what message are we sending to other young families, entrepreneurs, and volunteers that are trying to build something here? If the mayor and councillors decide not to fix this problem as soon as possible, the message will be clear. I know we're big, like, invest in CK. This is showing guys like me and many others a different story. Speaking on behalf of all these groups that are actively investing their time, money, and energy, I urge you to act. If we want Chatham-Kent to be a safe, thriving place for kids and families, then we cannot allow encampments to take root beside youth programs, small businesses, and residential neighborhoods. This needs to be addressed immediately before the problem gets bigger or someone gets hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to the Zoom deputation, John Barrett.
Hello, am I in?
Yes, we can hear you, John. Thank you.
Okay, first off, I'd like to apologize if I have any technical issues. Secondly, I'd like to thank Council and Mayor Caniff. And before I go any further, I would like to thank the one from ABI, New Beginnings. Please don't be discouraged. I have personal invested interest in what you do there, and it's well worthwhile for our community. To my neighbors, Amanda, Terry, we are all in the same boat, and we know what you're saying. For the soccer fields, we all feel the same way. I took the approach to not talk about the impacts I've seen, as I figured many people would bring that up today, as they have. The questions I have are, do we have actual bylaws in place? I saw our encampment protocol, and I'm wondering, are those voted on bylaws that are now in paper? And if so, what are those numbers? And I've heard from different sources, as we've all proven, there's not a lot of information handed to us early, but I've heard from several sources, including municipal and law enforcement, that many of the residents of the encampment are not from Chatham-Kent. So many neighbors have done a lot of research and found that we have the least stringent encampment protocols out of all of our neighboring communities, meaning Lambton, or Lambton, Essex, and Middlesex counties. And do you acknowledge that by having less stringent guidelines, we are probably creating a homeless attraction for bringing residents to our community? Because a lot of people are saying these are our community members, and from what I'm understanding, I don't think a lot of them are our community members. So I think that's perpetuating our problem. And my last question was, this encampment is meters away from our municipal water supply, which is at very real risk of contamination to our drinking water for our entire community. For obvious reasons, I don't want to explain the dire consequences of ease of access, but right across, like one fence, and they are in the municipal water supply. So some of my resolutions, please take this with a grain of salt. I absolutely do not know what the solution to this problem is, but I do believe that it's pertinent we enact bylaws that are at minimum as stringent as our neighboring municipalities to prevent the further migration of individuals from outside of Chatham-Kent to our community. I feel that PUC property should have extra protections due to the proximity of our Chatham municipal water supply. And I don't know the facts on who these people are and what opportunities they've had for getting out of the situations they're in. But I do feel that being beside soccer fields, a community garden, and walking trails that are used on a daily basis does not make a suitable location. And on my final point, I would like to say that if we do vote and pass bylaws, we need to determine how these bylaws are enforced. And I believe the police have taken a non-enforcement approach unless through court order. So we need bylaw enforcement that will actually have some meaningful way to enforce these bylaws. My son had a basketball net taken away due to a bylaw infringement that had overhung the road. And his result, I was afraid to tell him, and his result was, Dad, imagine being that guy, the guy that steals joy from children. And I said, we've got bylaw enforcement that can enforce those laws, but we don't seem to be able to enforce any other bylaws that we blatantly see going wrong in our community and right out in our backyards. And one of the points I do want to say about something earlier, I have seen some attitude from my own thing. I was part of I signed the petition that went on there and shared it, and people accused us of the not in my backyard attitude. The NIMBY attitude was mentioned a couple times tonight. I want to tell you from the things I have witnessed, I don't believe that belongs in anyone's backyard. I don't believe anyone in our community should be subject to the things that we are seeing going on. And if you're not contributing to solving the problem, then you're perpetuating the problem. And I believe that the encampments are probably the most dangerous place for some of these people to be. There is a case in Hamilton, Higsma versus Hamilton, where they've studied and said the most dangerous place that an endangered person could be is in the encampment, with exposure to drugs, exposure to assaults, exposure to crime. I think that creates the most dangerous environment that our most vulnerable people are kind of forced into. So I do not know what the solution is. I do not want negative feedback, and I would like to be part of the solution if I can, but I don't think this is the right way we're going about it. So I'm happy to help out in any way that I can.
Thank you. And just to read into the record, we had 11 deputations that were sent by email only from Brandon Ball of the Alzheimer's Society, Christine Hewlett, Corinne and Mark Eastcott, Canadian Shelter Transformation Network, Ken Bell, Cody McPherson, Laird Brush from Westover, Robert Giannoli, Sandra Jones, Sherry Saunders from CK Community Health Centers, and Salik Lotham. And I also wanted to mention that Council, I forwarded you a deputation this afternoon that was forwarded to me to share, and efforts to be transparent. I emailed that to Council today, and I did receive a list of the signatures, unconfirmed, but there were 1,840 signatures, 1,440 unconfirmed Chatham-Kent addresses, and 400 unconfirmed signatures from outside Chatham-Kent. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam.
Okay, so.
And I want to kind of go a little over why did we do this? Why do we have a special meeting? And, you know, I took some notes, but I think that to summarize it most is those 28 deputations. We've heard all sorts of varying degrees of opinion and thoughts on this, the biggest issue we face in Chatham-Kent, housing. How do we make sure everyone has housing? The basic rights, how do we provide basic rights? We've heard all that. And I wish I could stand here tonight and say, we've got the solutions. Let's do it. Let's fix it. The world is trying to do that. And as we meet here, the purpose of this meeting is to move ourselves down that continuum a little bit to say, how do we as a community get a little better at doing what we're doing? And we strive, ultimately, the solution is housing. House everybody. And how do we get that? How do we get there? So I want to thank the 28 people that took the time to do up their deputations. I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening in online to hear this discussion. Because it's so important that we have it. And it's an opportunity for us to talk and hear different opinions, but as well, we're going to have an opinion or a presentation shortly that's going to talk about kind of the specifics of things. So we can make sure we're all falling back on the same actual facts. We've heard a lot of great things, deputations. So at this point, we had to do a few things to make sure that we can actually proceed on with this. So we had no time for report and recommendations for the public to see, therefore asking council to waive notice on our motions this evening. This requires a 2/3 vote. Can I get someone to move the, Councillor Finn, Councillor Anderson second? And any questions regarding that? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Councillor McGrail?
Yes.
Councillor Sakachi's not here. Oh, here he comes. Thank you. All votes are in. Motion passes 17-0. And just to remind everyone, Councillor Brock McGregor is absent, so we have 17 votes this evening.
Okay, and in addition, on November 4th, 2024, Council approved the encampment response strategy. Therefore, we require a 2/3 vote for a motion to reconsider. Can I get someone to move that, please? Councillor Doyle and Councillor C. McGregor. Any questions relating to that? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
Councillor McGrail?
Yes.
All vote, oops. Thank you. All votes are in. Motion passes 17-0.
Okay, so as we're going to proceed on, we're going to have a presentation from administration. And at that point, I'm going to ask council, any questions you have, that's the opportunity to ask them once we get administration up, so that we can streamline the rest. So when we actually start talking about the motions themselves, that we're talking about that. I want to be able to limit everybody for 5 minutes, because we could be here for all hours of the evening. We need to make sure that everyone's heard. So from that perspective as well, I put something forward, motion forward, and Councillor Bondi did as well. So I shared the information to the public through media that I'd be bringing a motion this evening. Therefore, I'll be stepping away from the chair and asking Councillor Harrigan to preside over the meeting. I understand Councillor Bondi also has a motion, and he's welcome to raise those as amendments for voting if he wishes to. So when Councillor Harrigan takes here, you can discuss on how we're going to deal with yours as well. With that, I'll pass it over to who's doing the presentation? Kim? Okay, I'll pass it over to Kim. Thanks.
We'll stay with this for a few minutes. I'm not sure where this will go, but this is
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, community members. My name is Kim Crew. I am the Director of Housing Services for the Municipality of Chatham-Kent. The clicker's not working, so I'm going to ask Meredith to slide advance me as we go, just so everyone knows. So next slide, please. Homelessness in Ontario has been a growing crisis since 2020 and the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result of exponential increases in the cost of living, stagnant or frozen incomes, lengthy wait lists or inaccessible support services, and also a continually evolving toxic drug supply, the number of people experiencing homelessness continues to grow to numbers previously thought of as unimaginable. Administration has been actively working with community partners and reporting back to council and community on this issue since 2018. There are numerous reports and presentations that have supported previous decisions and recommendations. That said, we appreciate that not every community member has the time or interest to follow every municipal issue. And so for today's purposes, we're going to spend a bit of time just discussing how CK has found itself in the position that we are in today. From there, I'm going to discuss just a little bit about the current encampment protocols. I'm going to have some administration help me to talk about the legal challenges that municipalities are facing, in addition to the limited authority and the ability that municipalities have in solving this crisis. To be clear, though, to start this, no municipal staff or community partner is in support of encampments. They have become a necessity for individuals that cannot access the supports and services that they need, but they should not be considered a community norm, which is frankly what has and is happening across the province of Ontario. Today's presentation is intended to report facts. They are not and should not be construed as endorsements in any way. We are facing very complex issues that are interconnected with many others. Any action has consequences. Some are known, some are unknown. This is why no community has found a single fix-all answer to this issue and has not had absolute success. The Association of Municipalities of Ontario represents all Ontario municipalities and recently completed through a third party a comprehensive study on homelessness in Ontario and what it would take to solve this crisis. On this slide are links to recent reports and studies completed by outside organizations that demonstrate the scope of this crisis and illustrate that this is not unique to Chatham-Kent. Next slide, please. Homelessness in Chatham-Kent is not new. The first housing and homelessness plan was approved by council back in 2013. At this time, the number of people experiencing homelessness was minimal, and the length of time people spent homeless was typically short. Staff in the field often reported that homelessness in CK was hidden, and it was. There were a number of residents precariously housed or who fell into an emergency, but back then we had options to help address it. As an example, in 2015, a monthly stay at a local motel would cost about $400 to $500 a month. Someone receiving social assistance, specifically Ontario Works, would be able to pay for their month's stay and still have a couple $100 left over for food and basic needs. The total monthly income for someone on Ontario Works back then was about $650. Fast forward 10 years to this year, 2025. The same motel is now charging $1,400 a month in rent, while the person receiving Ontario Works will only receive $733 a month. The average market rent at this time, back in 2015, was approximately $600, which meant that many people, even those receiving social assistance, could afford some level of housing with no additional intervention required by the municipality. The current average asking rent in Chatham for a one-bedroom apartment is well over $1,700 monthly. The asking rent is often a better barometer of the challenges faced by people experiencing homelessness because it shows what they will need to pay, whereas the average market rent also takes into consideration low rents that people are paying based on the luxury of rent control. This means that securing housing on your own is impossible for anyone who's receiving Ontario Works, and for most that are receiving ODSP, that's Ontario Disability, as they only receive $1,368 a month. The math does not work, and it hasn't for many years now. Next slide, please. Before the pandemic, homelessness began to rise as the cost of living began to increase, while incomes for many remained frozen. The pandemic amplified this, and we saw property values skyrocket. Many boarding homes in Chatham-Kent were purchased with the tenants being evicted and the homes renovated into more expensive rentals. This is a difficult reality that was important to address. People suffering with addictions and undiagnosed mental health is not a new phenomenon in Chatham-Kent. The numbers very well may be higher, but the issue at its core is not. As we have heard directly from those with lived experience, what we now see in public was once behind closed doors. The difference is that those homes no longer exist for people as options. All this to say, every year, more people are falling into homelessness with less escaping. As demonstrated in this graph, the number of people experiencing homelessness in Chatham-Kent continues to increase every year. This is in line with nearly every municipality in Ontario. The few municipalities that are showing a decrease or a very limited increase have launched new supportive housing builds to help their numbers. Next slide, please. What happens every month is that some people who are experiencing homelessness get the help they need in secure housing of some form. They exit homelessness. This is our outflow. Unfortunately, new people every month fall into homelessness. This is due to a number of systemic issues, including reductions in affordable housing, and this is our inflow. More people each month fall into homelessness than those that exit. Some of council may recall a presentation back in 2022 where staff used the common river prevention metaphor to explain what was happening in Chatham-Kent with respect to homelessness. To quickly summarize, it is widely accepted that it is easier and more cost-effective to prevent homelessness. It was explained that the longer someone is experiencing homelessness, the harder it is to solve. Council is aware of success stories. Many of you have toured Victoria Park Place and other programs and have seen for yourself the hard work and dedication that staff, partners, and residents are putting into resolving their emergency. You have heard the deputations that supported this work at many other meetings from people who have received help and from community partners who have seen the results. But that doesn't mean that we have been successful in Chatham-Kent. Encampments are societal failures. Not one agency, not one level of government, nonprofit, or community group can solve this alone. Encampments involve people with very complex needs that our agencies have been unable to resolve. Some individuals in CK encampments have been there a short time, and they've advised that they're waiting for cabins and they are counting down the days hoping to get one. They may have a spouse or a partner, they may have a pet, and as a result, our congregate living style shelter was not accessible for them. But there are also individuals living in our current encampments that have been living outdoors for years. These are the ones who, as a community, we could not prevent this from happening. These are ones who we could not service in our shelters, who, as the analogy went, continued into the rapids where their mental health deteriorated further, their addictions progressed to where it is now. Municipal staff agree with our outreach partners and with our community partners that individuals need extensive treatment and rehabilitation services that do not exist in Chatham-Kent despite numerous attempts to bring them here. In 2022, staff reported that without immediate and significant increases in affordable housing and support services, more people would experience homelessness longer, that their needs would increase, which is exactly what we're seeing today. Next slide. As of today, there are about 10 known encampments in Chatham-Kent, with the largest, most visible encampment being at the PUC site. The others are smaller in nature, tend to be more transient, moving frequently depending on weather, neighbors, supports available, etc. There are also known encampments in Wallaceburg, and there have been known encampments in many of our other rural towns, which makes it reasonable to expect that there are also unknown encampments there right now that we don't know about. We understand that for many people who may not have experience on this issue, question if someone is that ill, why can't we force them to get help? Why can't we bring them to the hospital where they can remain until they are rehabilitated? Why individuals who may be intoxicated on substances cannot be arrested and remain there? I'd like to invite Chief Early up to talk just for a few seconds about the criminal code and the challenges that his officers have currently. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Kim. Mr. Mayor and Council. Before I start on this slide, when it talks about the police role in encampments, this speaks specifically to arrest and apprehension. I just want to advise that our role is multifaceted when it comes to this. Oh, sorry, Siri's talking to me. Although we're not the lead agency in this, we are a partner agency with Kim and her team, and we do like to take a collaborative approach to this. And yes, at times, there is law enforcement involved. Also with that is public safety. And the public safety is of everyone in Chatham-Kent, housed and unhoused. But when you speak about law enforcement, some of you at council have heard me say this, maybe some of the people that are here tonight, this is not something we are going to arrest our way out of. However, we are a partner in this. We are part of the team when it comes to this. I can tell you that since the encampment moved, we have had 143 calls for service to that location in and around it. 72 of those calls were reactive, which I would call, which is members of the community called, and the remainder were proactive by our officers. Our officers have had a heavy presence, at the encampment, plus a previous encampment. That goes to building that rapport, building those relationships. So when we do have to get to this portion, which is the law enforcement side, when we have to arrest or apprehend, I can tell you it's not easy, but it does make it easier because people understand. I will say that a number of the individuals living at the encampment, when they are spoken to by our officers and asked to do something or move or their tent isn't in compliance with the current protocol, they have listened, they have been compliant. There are a few outliers, there are some that do not, and then our officers will elevate their authorities when needed to. So when we speak about the authorities that you see right here, number one, the Criminal Code of Canada. Obviously, there's no law that prohibits you from sleeping in a public space. We cannot arrest an individual unless there's some sort of criminal offense occurring. Assaults, violent crimes, drug use, those types of things. Trespass to Property Act, a provincial act, the next two are. So the Trespass to Property Act typically applies to private property. It does apply to public. I do want to caution everyone before they start writing that down, but it has to be an unauthorized act that's going on. And with the current protocol that's in place, what's going on Grand Ave, Trespass to Property Act would not apply unless there's something else that occurs. And then our officers would use Trespass to Property Act. They may go to the Criminal Code of Canada. It all depends. And they may arrest or they may advise someone, move them along, which then takes care of it. And then when we talk about the next thing is the Ontario Mental Health Act. So our officers have the ability to apprehend individuals. Typically when they need evaluation because they're a danger to themselves or to others, that's another act that they could use involving individuals at the encampment. And I can tell you that has happened in the last week and a half. And then lastly, I don't want to get into this too much because I believe Dave's coming up next. Talks about the Charter of Rights and Freedom. I believe somebody gave a deputation on this under Section 7. Courts have ruled that removal from encampments without available housing can violate. Right? So there are some circumstances. And the only thing that's not up there is a recent law that's just come into place, and it's called the Safer Municipalities Act. It's just been enacted on June 5th. What the province has done is they've given us a little bit more tools in the toolbox, so to speak, when it comes to open air drug use. So in that situation, if somebody is using illegal drugs, officers or bylaw officers can approach them, ask them to stop, move them along. If they comply, then it's done. If they don't, then it's elevated to the next level, which could be a ticket. Unfortunately, I don't think giving tickets to individuals in an encampment is going to be a smart move. But there is an arrest authority in there, and officers could arrest if they do not comply. It's at very early stages. We haven't seen any short form wordings, which is what we would use to lay that ticket. So we are willing to use it. We do need to do some training on that for our members. But yes, it is another, so to speak, tool for us to use when it comes to the arrest and apprehension. But again, I just want to preface that, you know, we take an engagement first approach. I mean, we need to balance enforcement with human rights, especially when there's social realities that are being faced with some of our homeless people right now. So I don't know if we're doing questions now or after, Kim? After? Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor and Council, David Taylor, Director of Legal Services. Just as a bit of a supplement to the Chief's comments there, I wanted to make sure that the public in hearing this discussion was aware of the laws surrounding encampments and really some of the restrictions that municipalities face. Legal components of this are just one component, but it's important for citizens and council to understand in these discussions this constraints on approaches that municipalities can take because of a series of cases that have been decided in Ontario and across Canada. Because hopefully by understanding that, some of the approaches that municipalities are taking, including the encampment strategy and protocol that's in place here in Chatham-Kent, maybe will make a little bit more sense to citizens. Sometimes if you aren't paying attention, you aren't kind of up to date on these really quick evolutions of the law, the approach being taken might not appear on its face to be the best approach, but once you understand these restrictions, hopefully that helps. So there are several court cases that have established a right for unhoused persons to shelter on public land when shelter space is not available. And we know in Chatham-Kent, we do not have enough shelter space. So these cases really look at, there's two lines of cases. One of them, the earlier cases, are kind of a broader conclusion that people are allowed to shelter on public land. There is actually one case from Hamilton that was referenced tonight that was very explicit in saying that the right to shelter is only an overnight right. That's the only right that unhoused persons enjoy. But that's not the only case. There are competing cases, really. Other cases in other parts of Ontario and across the province have actually suggested that even a right to shelter may exist during the day as well. So I just wanted to be clear to people that there's this case in Hamilton that gets referenced. It's not the only case, that there's other cases as well, and that those are competing cases. A lot of people maybe who don't work in the legal world as well would think, well, the Hamilton case is the most recent case. As a result, that's the law. That's not the way the case law works in Ontario either, or in common law jurisdictions. We have multiple different decisions that are somewhat inconsistent with each other. They're all decided on their individual facts. And they only really apply to that fact scenario. And if another fact scenario comes up, you might end up with a different result. What we have now is multiple decisions at the Superior Court level, but those decisions haven't gone to the next level of an appeal court. In Ontario law, when you get appeal decisions, then you have a much stronger kind of understanding of what the law is. And so hopefully at some point, some legal case will get up to appeal level courts in Ontario about municipal encampment obligations, and that'll give us a much better direction. But as of right now, the municipality and council and administration are stuck with these competing cases and trying to apply these rules or these kind of obligations that we owe to unhoused persons to our encampment response. The core of all of these cases really gets to a question of whether or not the application of existing bylaws would breach the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So the Charter of Rights and Freedoms is kind of the fundamental rights that each of us as Canadian citizens enjoys. And these cases do an analysis of under Section 7 of the Charter. That's the right to security of the person and life. And they actually conclude that just like in Chatham-Kent, there's bylaws that prohibit camping in parks. It's not that we don't have a bylaw that says you can't camp in a park, we do. The question in those cases is, can those municipalities, and by extension can Chatham-Kent, apply those no camping rules to somebody who's unhoused, who has nowhere else to go? And the courts say doing so would violate their Section 7 rights, their right to protection of their security of the person and their life. That's why we run into this problem, to where, well, we have bylaws, we're then constrained by these cases that say applying those bylaws, trespassing people off of those properties would violate the Charter, and as a result, you're not allowed to apply those bylaws. That's the crux of why we have an encampment protocol, rather than just telling people get off the parks like we could, or like you would think we could from the bylaw. And so it's really this kind of evolving social situation and this evolving case law that then ends up in a spot to where municipalities are trying to respond by having an encampment protocol that balances all of those, that respects those cases, respects that people who are unhoused have a right to shelter themselves on public lands, but then tries to apply some rules to constrain maybe the worst impacts that an encampment might have on neighboring areas. So that's why you'll see things like restrictions for how close it can be to recreational amenities or pathways, things like this. The caution, though, is we can't have so many rules that practically there is no public lands available to somebody to shelter on. That's the difficulty. That's the balancing and crafting any of these responses. Again, this isn't unique to Chatham-Kent. I can tell you we're connected in the municipal legal world to municipalities across Ontario discussing this exact same issue, having these exact same difficulties in trying to craft a response. So with that, happy to answer any questions later, but I'll turn it back to Kim.
In November of 2024, staff brought updated recommendations to Council that considered legal advice in consideration for what other municipalities were doing. Staff were also conscientious about the limited resources that we have compared to our neighbouring municipalities. Staff were intent on finding solutions that didn't cost taxpayers the millions of dollars that other municipalities were spending to manage the same issue. Additionally, as staff reported, encampments affect all of Chatham-Kent, and so extensive consultations were completed that included people with lived and living experience, Chatham-Kent residents, and business owners. The surveys were available on Let's Talk Chatham-Kent and were actively promoted, resulting in one of the most active municipal surveys completed, with 803 residents completing the survey online, 50 business owners, over 47 users accessed the page, 2,498 citizens reviewed the information, and in total, 836 residents completed the survey. Staff heard from members of the general public and individuals living in encampments that the larger concern surrounding encampments is not the homelessness itself, but the conditions, the crime, and the social disorder that continue to occur in some encampments. Additionally, and this continues to be the case with all forms of housing, whether it's affordable, supportive, or simply denser, many respondents agreed that we have a need for housing, but pointed that it should be in another neighborhood. It is because of this that staff did recommend protocols versus selecting one neighborhood over another. Next slide. As part of the recommendations brought forward to Council, staff from multiple divisions reviewed and provided input on the feasibility of 3 options. Option 1 was sanctioned encampments. Sanctioned encampments generally involve municipalities setting aside and formally designated municipal land specifically for encampment use. There are several recognized models of sanctioned encampments, ranging from low service, low regulation sites with only basic essential services supplied, to more robustly regulated and staffed sites. While this approach has been considered in other municipalities, very few Canadian municipalities have proceeded to establish sanctioned encampment sites due to the costs, mixed support from stakeholders, and unclear outcomes regarding pathways to more permanent housing. Option 2 was a prohibition of all encampments. This option has been thoroughly considered by other Ontario municipalities. At the time of the protocols, case law was clear that this was a breach, but as legal has advised, there are new nuances, and we still don't have a clear definitive answer. We have to be realistic in that doing this would require enforcement of making people continually move because, as we have demonstrated, there is currently no available options for everybody. We can ban them from one area, but then we will spend resources chasing them out of other areas. Municipalities that have cleared some encampments have also been able to demonstrate increases in available housing options. For example, Hamilton has increased shelter capacity by 80%. Sarnia implemented a 38-bed overflow shelter. These additions cost millions of dollars to operate, and as we have not received this support from other levels of government to operate, we have not made these recommendations to council due to the impact it would have on property taxes. Option 3 was a strategy to mitigate the impacts of encampments through rules and protocols. This approach has been considered and adopted by several municipalities, including our own. We surveyed multiple of them, this appears to be viewed as consistent with current judicial guidance regarding encampments on municipal land, namely preserving municipal lands for encampments where there is lack of available and accessible housing solutions, while also working towards meeting the needs of the community at large, including neighbors and business owners. Where this approach has been adopted, there is recognition that removal of encampments can lead to harm to occupants, such that supportive and trauma-informed approaches to enforcement are necessary. There's also recognition that long-term housing solutions are required to properly address encampments and other forms of non-adequate housing. Until such time that Chatham-Kent has the necessary affordable and supportive housing that is needed, staff continue to recommend mitigation approaches to work to balance this impossible task. Next slide. At the November 2024 council meeting, Council, you voted unanimously to accept staff's recommendations after extensive conversation on this challenging topic. The protocols presented remain a balancing act. Administration has attempted to protect vulnerable community members like children and seniors, in addition to citizens' rights to access sports fields, parks, and other amenities, that all Chatham-Kent residents should be able to enjoy their property or business in peace. There was also and still is recognition that should we make the distances too great, then we would neither not be enforceable or we will create a liability for the municipality, both reputationally and financially. In November of 2024, when administration made the current recommendations, staff could only identify a few municipally owned properties that would meet these protocols. By further increasing the distance and thus reducing options, we fear that we are essentially banning encampments. Chatham-Kent does not have the number of wide open spaces like those in London or Sarnia, where they have implemented similar protocols with greater distances from residential property lines. Increasing the required distance from private property to 100 meters will reduce the number of available and known sites to 2 or 1. We'll have more comment on that later. This will create some new known and unknown challenges. Implementing daytime bans will require extensive enforcement and will have an impact on Chatham-Kent police, as they will be required to frequently keep the peace. Furthermore, it's been commented that Sarnia has solved their encampment issue. However, just last week, the Sarnia police launched an AI phone line so that people will stop calling the police about encampments. As stated by Sarnia Chief of Police in a CTV interview, since dismantling the encampment at Rainbow Park, those staying there have been dispersed to other encampments in the region. No community in Ontario has been able to solve this crisis, and until all levels of government begin working together to address the root causes, I'm afraid this will continue. There are no quick solutions, and right now we don't believe that there are any winners. Whether the encampment is near your home, near your business, or you find yourself on the opposite side of this conversation and needing help, this is truly an unacceptable reality in our community. Next slide. I'm going to ask Ray Harper to come up and talk about some of the current active projects we have as far as development in our housing portfolio.
Okay, I'm going to pull out of this for the moment, take a little break, and then we're going to take you inside the biggest tent city that we have in this municipality. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
As I said earlier, for all those delegations through the evening tonight, the people living in the encampments, I don't think there was a single person who had a moment to speak. So tonight, as we do here on Maverick News, we give voice to the voiceless. I take you inside Chatham-Kent's biggest tent city now.
Hi, how are you? My name is Rick Walker. I'm with Maverick News, and I'm just wondering if maybe I could ask you some questions about, I think there's a meeting going on this evening. Yeah.
Is there?
Apparently, yeah. I actually live in the neighborhood over here too, but I wanted to see if there was somebody who maybe I could talk to. What's that? Well, I just want to know, like, I know that the city asked you guys to leave. Hi. Hi, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Do you live here as well?
I do.
Yeah. So I'm curious, why did you pick this spot? Because I think there's probably like less support and stuff here, right?
The move in general cut off a lot of our supports, which I'm not going to lie has become very dangerous in the heat. Yesterday, no one dropped off water. A lot of people got very sick, or it became very dangerous. However, the reason why we picked this spot is because of the lack of spots available in the town that actually fit the requirements and limitations that they placed upon. Unfortunately, our resources have become very limited. Where we can go becomes very limited, and eventually we're going to have nowhere left to go, and that poses a very serious problem.
Yeah, I can tell you, I live, well, just in the neighborhood over there, not real close. A couple of my neighbors, when I've been out walking my dog, expressing concerns, I never see you guys. Nobody seems to ever come over, no problem for me, right? But has there been much friction with any of the people from the neighborhood here? They're kind of leaving you alone?
In the beginning, we did have some concerning people driving by. However, things have quieted down quite a lot, actually. I will say there is even a major difference within our own little community here. From the last spot, as we have more space, we're stretched out, whereas the last spot became very hard as we became overcrowded. We were quite literally on top of each other. We had no space. Here we're spread out. We have more privacy amongst our neighbors.
It's kind of quieter here too, right?
Their water is full. You
Yeah.
can get water anywhere.
Yeah.
The water is very rough. It's almost a tease being next to a water plant and being musty and hot.
So you can't get water here? Or it's hard? Even though there's a place over there to...
Unfortunately, the stigma against the homeless is very rough and has some severe impacts on people who are just genuinely trying to get by.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a complex problem, right? Because you've got a lot of different issues. So in your view, what are the problems that have created this? Because when I moved to this town like 30 some years ago, there was nothing like this.
I feel
I read,
like there's a lack of compassion, a lack of knowledge as to what really is going on. It really boils down to a lot of people see reactions but never really ask why. If all it takes is just maybe even 10 minutes of your time and a little compassion to come down, even ask just one person down here how they got their start. And I promise you, not one of us genuinely started off thinking that this is where we were gonna.
Yeah. I mean, it's a combination of things, right? It's like sometimes mental health issues, people just losing jobs, family supports, drug issues, right?
I lost my job and lack of housing. And for the past 3 years, I have had severe issues finding housing because unfortunately, the impact of homelessness and finding housing is the longer you go without landlord references, the harder it is to be accepted into an apartment.
Right.
So essentially, the longer you've been homeless, the harder it becomes to have house.
I can understand that because you have basically no fixed address, no place for anything to be mailed. How do you even register as a participating member in society when you can't get registration for something or go to a government office and get a piece of ID? Because where do they send it? Well, over to the place where I'm living in my tent, right?
Your birth certificate and a bunch of stuff got stolen. Like, I don't have a health card. I have a license. I don't have it on me. I actually leave it at my mom's because if I take it with me, it gets stolen.
Yeah.
So without that, like, you can't do anything. I can't go to the doctor because I don't have a health card.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
You know, when I talk to people, and I'm no expert on this, but as a journalist working many years, like 40 some years, right? Occasionally I touch on stories like this. It just seems to me that politicians, community activists, they'll say, well, we just have to build more houses for the people, but that's not really the
No, it just
solution.
continuously builds and builds with the bills. It's a cycle that hasn't been broken yet.
Yeah.
In all honesty, it comes down into insanity, doing the same thing over and over throughout history, expecting a different result. I'm surprised we haven't gone back to 2008 with what happened to Detroit at this point with the way the economy is going, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here waiting for, like, where's my dollar house?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we shouldn't laugh about it, but it's true, right? Yeah.
If you really look at what's going on with economics, even these tariffs, like, what worse timing for them?
Yeah.
Right after the pandemic, even, and a war going on, like, things are not getting better, and we definitely need to acknowledge that.
Yeah. So, what was the purpose of tonight's meeting? Is this just so people can express concerns? And I know there was some sort of a petition going around that I heard about.
I heard it got like 2,000 signatures. I don't know if that's true or not.
What is the petition asking for? I don't know.
Essentially, the removal of us.
To get you out of here.
We don't have anywhere else to go. And that's where we need a year.
A lot of people's stuff got destroyed. I know a lot of people are missing
lost
things.
a lot.
They threw a lot of stuff out.
The city did?
There, it got thrown out.
Yeah.
And then we had no way to move it. We were doing trips back and forth.
And with between the rain and the heat, a lot of people had to leave everything behind because
I
it
left
just couldn't be
everything.
done.
I left everything. Yeah.
You just left everything there?
Yeah, I couldn't bring it all.
Because you didn't have any way to move it, right? No, you don't have a truck.
Rock missions could only move so many people, right?
Yeah.
And we only had so much time.
Yeah.
Like,
But those people at Rock Missions, I think they're generally pretty good people, right? They've been
do
helpful.
as much as they can, but when you have only a handful of people, I know a lot of people only saw maybe a handful of tents at the last location, but you also have to understand there could be 4 or 5 people per tent. We had well over 100 people there at once.
Yeah.
It's not easy to move that many people and just
we all kind of helped each other.
Yeah.
The tent city is now located in a suburban area, a middle-class neighborhood where residents are concerned about safety and real estate values. This online petition has generated over 1,800 signatures from local residents who are demanding that the municipality take action. If you read through here, you'll see that they are requesting all kinds of regulations, rules for those who are sitting in the park, camping in these tents. They're demanding that there be no open fires, barbecues, or combustibles, that they want the pets all leashed when outside of shelters, and They want muzzles used on dogs. They want tougher action taken on issues like garbage. But if you really dig down into it, what they're really asking for here is that the municipality move the encampment to what they're calling a more suitable location.
It's a struggle here every day because in the summer you're getting the sun beating down on your tents, right? It's really hot.
We go from one extreme to the other year after year. We go from extreme heat, worrying about heat. The winter, I froze. I was on the ground with Jeremy, like we were freezing.
How do you that was the thing. In January, the depths of winter, I'm like, how are these guys even?
We had nothing. And the laws that are placed on us make it that much harder. Like, we're supposed to eat, but we can't have fires. Obviously, we don't have access to oven.
Right.
Like even a community center with a cook area would be helpful if we had access to that, but we don't. And then every time we do,
you can't cook there. Like it's limited.
Yeah.
You don't have that much either, right?
Yeah,
like I go there a lot of times and they actually are out of things. Like
the funding.
Yeah.
There's no funding.
Yeah, they cut funding ridiculously. And I understand that a lot of people find that the harm reduction program is more of an enabler, but being out here and a non-user on top of that, witnessing what has been going on to my fellow neighbors with these budget cuts, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous not having access to these,
or just basic things like a shower or a bathroom, right?
Well, not only that, but
porta john, but it's fucking disgusting.
They don't clean it enough.
It's so gross. And I know that a lot of that is from people here, but like it's not everybody's fault, right?
Yeah.
Like there is some people that don't use it appropriately, maybe, but like that's not all of us, right?
Yeah.
And how do you even access health care? Because
you go to the hospital, they don't really do anything.
If you don't have an address, essentially no address, no insurance, you're not really...
You can't even go to a walk-in clinic. I think they charge $15.
For not having a health card. And a lot of us don't even have access to that kind of money, let alone having the prescriptions that they...
So it creates this like spiral down, right? Because you can't get help, you can't get health care. If you become ill, you're going to become more ill.
Exactly.
That makes it...
wounds or cuts, like they can't
it comes
get
down
treated.
To self-medication out here just to survive, and that's what people don't understand.
I'd be careful that people are...
Yeah.
It gets worse as you go down.
So the people who have come, some of the community leaders who have, maybe tried to address this, do they really address some of the issues that I've been talking about? Like, how do you get a place to mail something, or how do you get integrated back into the communities so that you can find a job?
That we could use like an address for all of it. Like, not even just work
often as they can, but the lack of support,
But they don't maybe even understand really what you're facing, right?
Out here, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand either from what I get. They don't really care.
Yeah. I have actually had officers me to my face when I tell them, you don't understand, and I've had officers laugh at me and go, you're right, and I don't care to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really rude.
Trying to get rid of us, essentially, make us disappear, and they see us, we're not a problem to them.
It's very upsetting to go from writing all lives matter to this. It really does. It wasn't that long ago where the whole world was fighting for all lives matter. So what changed?
Now it's fucked up.
Exactly.
No, literally, Jordan's right.
They went from trying to take our rights up.
What did everybody down? We're not bugging the neighborhood. We're not disrupting them. We try to stay over here for the most part.
In all honesty, we're almost as afraid of them as they are.
We are.
Yeah.
From getting cans and food and garbage thrown at us every day for a year straight. Trust me, we don't want to associate with those people.
Is that what's been happening? Some people,
Yeah, we get people drive by throwing stuff.
They honk the horn all night, screaming at us.
A lot of us don't get to sleep because of it. And if you really think about it, lack of sleep, lack of food, what does that cause? Instability, mood swings, aggression.
Yeah.
It's all just a ripple effect, essentially.
Yeah.
It really, what goes on out here, to be honest, is no different than what goes on behind closed doors back there. The only difference is they have solid walls and we don't.
They get to go home at the end of the night.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
We have to stay and deal with it.
The encampment brought a sense of stability.
Yeah, it was like a family.
We had somewhere.
At least this is your community. This is your neighborhood, right?
Exactly. It's no different than being down in the projects in some ghetto, you know? It's just our ghetto involves tent.
Yeah.
But we are a community. We help each other out. We really do. Like, we try to. I mean, it's no different. Yeah, not everybody's gonna get along, of course, but
we have our moments, but yeah. Everyone has a bad day.
The thing is everybody gets to hear everyone's bad day out here, you know?
Do you guys, are you on the delegation list tonight? Anybody speaking at the meeting tonight from here?
Not to my knowledge. I didn't even know about the meeting.
No?
I'm under the impression that we have very little support.
A lot of us don't have phones. We don't have a way to hear about things like that.
Yeah.
We don't have a whole lot of people.
Yeah, we just get on this. I'm sure we'd stand up there and just get attacked. Like, I'm sure if we did go.
And that's what it feels like. A lot of us don't want to speak out because we already know, like, even you see those people out there panhandling as good.
I go panhandling every day.
How many times have they come back?
I made $30 yesterday and I sat out there all day in the heat.
Yeah.
All day. And it got stolen from me.
A lot of emotional and mental strain, you know? It's a lot of emotional and mental strain. Plus, you're out there in the heat, exposed to the elements the whole time. People don't realize how difficult that really is.
But if you guys
sitting still for 8 hours,
but if you guys don't go to the meeting and you don't
then we don't get a voice.
Speak up, then no one can understand. So
it comes down to, will we really be listened to? And there is a difference between someone hearing and listening.
Yeah.
We see it. We see the hatred, and it has us shying away.
It hurt, right?
We feel that there's no compassion. Like, even if we do speak up, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, it hurts, right?
Very. And just like to go out all day and like work hard, or like, you know, it's not working, but like trying to do something, and then people just take it right away all the time.
You can't even enjoy something because it's gone.
Like, I biked across town, it's so annoying.
It was hot. Like, I could barely move yesterday.
Then my tire popped. It was a thing, one thing after another.
In all honesty, I saw people, very few people, but I saw people coming in and out all day, and I was sitting even under the tree. I was sitting there. I was like, I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah.
I saw people getting paler and paler. I was puking. People were,
so bad.
All morning, people have been projectile vomiting just from the heat alone. I've had a couple of people collapse in front of my tent already, and I don't even have water to help them. So that hurts me even, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm very compassionate. I don't like seeing my friends like this. Yeah, I don't. And not having a way to help them, it's all annoying hard.
So, like, immediately, what do you guys need here? You need
water. Not just water. I will say, like, oftentimes we do get water, but when you're here, you end up dealing with something like electrolyte deficiencies. Now, the water helps with digestive, but it does nothing for hydration.
Yeah.
Things like juices, orange juices, apple juices, watermelon, things that will actually hydrate, focus on electrolytes would really help so that our body could even take in this water. A lot of us are ending up very, very sick and in pain due to digestive problems because we just don't have the necessary nutrients that we need. I myself, a week ago, ended up in the hospital for severe malnutrition. Yeah. And even then, I was getting as much as was coming by, and it got very dangerous, and I started.
Yeah. Is there anything else you think I should know, or do you want the people out there to be aware of?
A lot of us that seem like we're not trying have tried for so long and given up. Honestly, maybe they just need that little bit of hope again, that handout. Trust me, it will go a long way. And a lot of us out here, I promise you, none of us willingly chose this in the beginning. We're just trying to make the best of a rock in a hard place.
What about that tiny home place over there? How does that factor?
They're focusing mainly on the shelter, as for my knowledge. I know none of us have been spoken about it. I am aware that there is a wait list that is already severely long.
Yeah.
In all actuality, even with that little bit, it's still not enough with how far this has already become. It's still going to take quite a few years to correct the situation. And even as we're correcting it, more and more people are still becoming homeless.
What was the one thing that just set all this up? Because we're seeing this happen in cities all across the country.
It comes down to to me, I find a total economic breakdown, where I feel like we have lost touch with each other, the lack of compassion even throughout. If you look, like, we're all just miserable. We're not helping each other anymore. We're all focused on our own problems now. What we forgot is that a lot of times the answer to your problems is often found in others. Compassion goes a long way. When you help somebody else, oftentimes you're helping yourself. The more we help, the less we will struggle. In all honesty, it comes down to be here once instead of separated. There's a lot of segregation of and it very much needs to be corrected. And I know we can correct it. Throughout history, it's been proven that racism and all that, like, it's still there, but look at where we were before. And if we can correct something like that, you can definitely correct something.
Okay, what was your name again?
Dawn.
Dawn.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for talking to me today. I hope this helps.
I hope so too. I really do. We very much need it. We're all just people out here trying to do the best we can. A lot of us actually even look forward to job offers, like legit job offers. It gives us something to look forward to do during the day, rather than waking up every day going, well, why do I do it myself, you know? Like my friend over here, he was very frustrated. He'd be less frustrated. You got him working on car.
I would be frustrated too if I couldn't make my cooler thing work or whatever.
Honesty, if you put him in front of a car, give him a toolbox, he'll be the happiest guy alive for the next month. I promise you that. He has such a passion for cars. And
I did good body work.
yes, he does.
That Dawn, she's smarter than you might think. Took me a couple of minutes to clue in. She was trying to help her friend there who was frustrated with that cooler. I don't know what he was trying to do with that thing. Zip ties and a couple of small pieces of wood. Trying to get him a job working on cars. How does she know I'm into cars? Then I realized I was wearing this hat. But she wasn't asking for herself. She was trying to get her friend a job. She was thinking, they're helping each other over there. Very tough situation. And I didn't hear anything tonight that made me think that this is going to be solved. I'll be right back.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV,
the entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
I'm going to rewind just a little bit to an earlier portion in the meeting tonight, which is still ongoing, to pick up just a little bit of some of the more heartfelt moments, more emotional, realistic, nitty-gritty, right down into the heart of the matter moments during tonight's presentations from delegations. Here we go. Let's take you back there.
Involved. Compassionate leaders don't avoid hard decisions. They make them with humility, creating space for growth, even in adversity. I challenge the leaders of our community to make compassionate decisions. Don't avoid the hard conversations for fear of backlash. Create space for growth and consider all residents of Chatham-Kent who have been or could be potentially impacted by the decisions you make. Thank you.
Next speaker is Amanda Lytle. On deck is Claire McDowell.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Lytle and my family and I reside in a home which overlooks the PUC green space. We have been there for 17 years and bought our home in dreams of filling it with children who would enjoy and thrive in the surrounding environment, community, and close schools. On July 16th, my husband discovered a male individual face down beside the public walking path. When he told me about him, I took my phone, exited our back deck, and went to see if the man was still there. He was. So instead of calling 911, the number I have known to call my entire life, if anyone needs help, I looked up the non-emergency line. I called it twice because in my frantic state, I couldn't follow the many menu items. I eventually literally hit 9. I still don't know exactly what I called, but it was a dispatcher who helped me through an uncomfortable, uneasy time. My instincts are to help, but that day I was torn with uncertainty due to articles released about complaints in our area and the advice to stop calling the emergency line. I felt so guilty because I was afraid to approach the individual due to his location and potential circumstances. My children watched as I broke down, apologized to the dispatcher and the police that arrived. Because again, I was unsure what I was doing was right. The follow-up to this incident is that my family and neighbors who came out to support me we became visible as the homeowners. I am sure that the tents surrounding the unhoused individuals heard and saw what was happening, and they retaliated, as the following day when my husband went out our back fence, we were met with a pile of human excrement, which was right in the middle of our gate. My head knows that many of them don't understand that I was trying to help that day. My heart hurts because my children can no longer go out in their yard. Our friends and families with young children do not want to play volleyball on our field. And my children can no longer walk to soccer practices because the association has left and tried to relocate practices. We have officially been in touch with realtors to discuss our options because what was once a place for us to feel our children could grow up enjoying, sharing it with friends, and most of all, feeling safe is no longer. Now it is a place where we have to read pamphlets as a family in order for them to understand what is going on around us and what they have to do to keep themselves safe in our home and neighborhood. Although these seem like good lessons for children, I have to ask, is this what you are reading to your children right now? Thank you, Mayor Caniff and council members, for creating this opportunity for us to speak and put forth new proposals.
Next speaker is Claire McDowell. On deck is Colleen Lewis.
Mayor Caniff and Chatham-Kent councillors, my name is Claire McDowell. I would like to start by thanking you for calling this meeting and also thank those of you who took the time to respond to emails, phone calls, and many community members, and to visit the encampment at the PUC, also having conversations with those you encountered there, both housed and unhoused. We appreciate not only your time, but also your acknowledgement that this issue needs to be addressed for all encampments in Chatham-Kent. After reading the two proposals and comparing them with information gathered from other cities around the province, I could quickly see the positive correlation between Mayor Caniff's proposal and procedures already in place in other cities. They are proven ideas that would have positive results here as well. So as a result, I'm going to confine my comments to a couple of additional items that have also come from other cities in response to our experiences in the community over the last 3 weeks. Firstly, we suggest that tents should be more than 5 meters from sidewalks, paths, roads, transit stops, and walkways, 100 meters from businesses, and 25 meters from active construction sites. This suggestion is for the safety of those using the pathway, to avoid having them walk on the road instead, which is not safe. That's why you put the pathway there in the first place, and also ensures the privacy of the unhoused. Reduces the likelihood of negative interactions, inappropriate observations, and the heckling that we have heard of the unhoused, not by them. Asking for the 100-meter boundary from business is important, shows equal respect for their property and their livelihood. They have invested it in the community and need our support. Setting a distance from roadways and construction site is a safety concern. Typically, the roadway through the PUC is quiet. Drivers are careful and pay close attention, but over the past 3 weeks, there has been a constant stream of gawker traffic, not paying attention to people on bicycles, on foot, or on other vehicles as they drive through the PUC, staring at the encampment, taking photos and videos, and in some cases yelling obscenities at the unhoused. Putting a buffer zone between roadways and tents is a protection for those in the encampment and anywhere else on the roadway, because we are aware that there have been incidents on Grand Ave in particular caused by poor and inattentive driving as people stare at the encampment. Secondly, create a designated portal for communication, reporting, and gathering data specific to the encampments only, separate from the 311 concerns like the City of Hamilton, that collates information and posts a weekly report online. This data traffic is helpful to determine the areas needing additional resources, but importantly, could be used to emphasize the need for improved government funding. And yes, I have contacted our MP and MPP. Public requests that you do more must take into consideration that you have less than other jurisdictions. CK's allocation of $282,822 in provincial top-up funding through COHB in early 25 was considerably lower than municipalities of similar sizes like St. Thomas and Sarnia-Lambton, and yet, in January, the CBC reported that the unhoused population in Chatham has grown by 171% since 2019. Having regularly updated data available through the portal would help everyone to have a better understanding of what is happening around the municipality and encampments, because communication after the fact played a big role in inciting the anger and frustration in the community. I have no wish to point fingers at anyone as to how or why that happened, but I think we have all learned lessons on how to do a better job with communication. So I want to end this deposition by the same way as I began, by thanking you, Mayor Caniff, and all members for putting this together. I support Mayor Caniff's proposal because I feel it responds to the concerns voiced by citizens on social media, by email, and by phone, and importantly, offers assistance to those who are ready and willing to transition to supportive housing out of encampments, both now and in the future. I don't envy the position that you are in. This is a complex and multi-layer issue. Your proposal, Mayor Caniff, is positive and a much welcome step in the right direction, and I encourage all councillors to cast their vote in support of a change. Your constituents will appreciate it.
Thank you. Next speaker is Colleen Lewis. On deck is John Foster from the Chatham Soccer Club.
Dear Mayor, councillors, community members, good evening. My name is Colleen Lewis, and I'm a longtime resident of Chatham-Kent's North Side, a dedicated social worker for over 25 years of service in our community. I also serve as the chair of Reach Out Chatham-Kent Rock. I am writing to express my strong support for the individuals in our community who are currently experiencing homelessness, particularly those residing at the Waterworks site, as well as to advocate for compassionate, systemic responses to homelessness in Chatham-Kent. This letter comes from a place of deep concern for individuals in our community who are unhoused and facing significant barriers to securing basic needs and affordable housing. We also hear the concerns of those who are comfortably housed and running businesses in the area. ROC acknowledges and understands that the housing crisis is causing discomfort and uncertainty for everyone. However, we must recognize that the root of the crisis lies within systemic failures, not the choices of individuals. No one chooses to live in an encampment. People seek out safe alternatives when they're available. Sleeping rough is not a lifestyle choice, it's a last resort. While encampments are not a solution, they are often a desperate response to survive. They serve as a visible and human reminder of the urgent need for systemic change and real housing solutions. This is not personal failure, this is a systemic issue. It is critical to approach homelessness with a trauma-informed lens, a person-centered lens. The Mayor and Council have the opportunity to lead with compassion and innovation, just as communities like St. Thomas have done. St. Thomas has embraced a person-centered, housing-focused approach that has shown to be more effective than enforcement-based responses. To make meaningful change, we will need intentional strategies, following the Housing First model, transitional housing options, cross-sector collaboration, housing-focused street outreach, and significant investment for affordable housing. Other communities have successfully implemented these approaches. We can do the same here in Chatham-Kent. Homelessness is not a personal failure, but the complex interplay of systemic barriers and life circumstances. Many individuals experiencing homelessness have endured significant trauma, compounded by poverty, displacement, and neglect. To truly address homelessness, we must recognize the role of intersectionality, racism, sexism, gender bias, socioeconomic marginalization, and stigma related to sexual orientation. Identity contributes to perpetuating homelessness. This is our call to action. We must come together as a community rooted in dignity, empathy, and inclusion. The individuals who are unhoused are not statistics or faceless problems. These are our neighbors, our parents, our children, our friends, many struggling with mental health issues and trauma and lack of access to health care, and while trying to meet their basic needs. When those needs go unmet, coping mechanisms can escalate, sometimes into substance use, but not from weakness, but from overwhelming pain of unaddressed trauma and lack of support. This is not just a housing issue, it's a public health issue, it's a social justice issue, a shared community responsibility. I urge you to support flexible, low-barrier, person-centered approaches, including maintaining safe, stable places like the current encampment, as we work towards permanent, affordable housing solutions to provide those essential support services. Thank you for your time and consideration, and for standing in solidarity with those who need our support the most.
I'll be right back. We'll dig into the other top news stories of the day on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So, former Prime Minister Stephen Harper making headlines tonight with this, I guess, revelation or statement saying that Mark Carney's Liberal team sought his advice on the trade war with the United States, the Trump administration. Harper, of course, the former Conservative Prime Minister of Canada. This is the article on CTV, their website. He says that he's urging Ottawa to find new trading partners outside the United States. So many people making this into something of a liberal versus conservative or whatever issue. And yet here is Stephen Harper, probably the most pro-American prime minister we've ever had in Canadian history, advising the current government to look outside of the United States and to diversify our trading interests internationally. Harper was speaking today at, where was it? I think he was in Saskatoon. And he was, what was it he was addressing here? Because I really became aware of this just heading into the broadcast tonight because I was so focused on this other issue here. But it was some sort of an international conference. And he says, while the border is a shared responsibility, he says, let's make sure we spend a lot more on defense so that we can be independently responsible for our own land, seas, and skies, independent of the United States, he said. These are all things that, honestly, and this is from the editorial side, from me, saying, yes, I agree with that. Because the reality is the United States is withdrawing, shrinking, pulling inward, becoming protectionist. Under the leadership, if you want to call it that, of Donald Trump, the United States is no longer leading. It's a country now in decline by choice because of Trump. Many people not really realizing that that is the case, but that is exactly what is happening. And because of that, Canada would be wise, and I am editorializing, aligning myself really with much of what Stephen Harper has been saying here today. We can't hitch our wagon to a government in decline. I've been saying for a long time, we are way more important to the United States than the other way around, although Trump wants us to think it's the other way around. The U.S. needs us to bail them out of their debt. So be careful what you ask for, be careful what you vote for, be careful what you support. You might just get it, separatists. What else is he saying in this article here? He says, We just cannot be in a position in the future where we can be threatened in this way and not have that leverage. He says, just go through this in a little bit more detail. He says, I think it's fair to say I'm probably, yeah, here it is, the most pro-American prime minister in Canadian history. Harper told the Canadian and American legislatures gathered at the annual Midwestern Legislative Conference meeting in Saskatoon. He says, he goes on to say, we've got to get something short-term worked out with the Trump administration, but this really is a wake-up call for this country to truly diversify its trade export markets. Just because we have the geographic proximity does not justify the degree of dependence that we have on a single market. It's very true. Not to say we can't continue to trade with the U.S. and can even expand our trade with the U.S., but we need to expand our economy by engaging in more trade with other countries around the world. Doesn't mean we have to do less with the U.S. We'll do as much as we can with them, but we can't hitch our wagon to them and be dependent on the U.S. We've been spoiled in that way. It's just been a lot easier to just go across the border rather than look at tapping into markets and working collaboratively with other countries to build our economy in even larger ways. Not to say that we don't. And Canadians, so modest. We do have one of the strongest economies in the entire world, highly educated workforce, highly educated society. We're a first world country with immense resources at our disposal. All we have to do is just harvest them, use them, develop them, capitalize on them. Harper said that while Washington is using a failed economic policy of pursuing economic growth through tariffs, the U.S. still needs trading partners. Yes. He says, he goes on here and he says, we just cannot be in a position in the future where we can be threatened in this way and not have that leverage. The current government does, get it better than their predecessors. Yes. Like Trudeau. He says he hopes Americans recognize that they can take their international allies and trading partners for granted. They can't take their international allies and trading partners for granted, which Trump is. He's beating up his friends. It's so stupid. He goes on and says, I really do hope that a realization seeps into the United States. But see, for Trump, it isn't really just about the trade. It's about something a little bit different, and people still haven't quite clued in. It will become clearer, I think, in the months ahead. He says Canadians are a combination of just angry and bewildered. Bewildered, that's right, because people are not cluing in. They don't really know what it is that he wants from Canada. They're bewildered by what is happening here. And that is very real, he says, and is very deep. And it is across the country, and it is across the political spectrum. It's not conservative versus liberal for Canada. Though a lot of people are buying into that kind of idea that it's a liberal problem. No, this is a Canada problem now, brought to us by the United States. And all this, it's Canada's own fault. It's the government's fault. They did it. No, Trump did this. Trump. And if you love your country, you need to clue into that. It is really just that simple. And if you love the United States, you need to clue into that, because the U.S. and Canada stronger together, not as one, but as partners. As I've said before, and I've illustrated in a couple of different ways, Canada is more valuable to the United States as an allied country rather than a 51st state, and certainly much more valuable to the United States than a fractured, dysfunctional, crippled country broken up because some greedy people on the U.S. side of the border decided that they wanted to take control of one province or maybe a couple and screw the rest. No. We're in a... The majority of Canadians are beginning to wake up to what the threat is here. It's uncomfortable. It presents challenges for us. But here on the Canadian side, we can absolutely rise to the occasion. There may be a little bit of pain or maybe a lot of pain during the transitionary period. But in the long run, Canada is very well positioned if we choose to lace up our work boots and get to it. Let's move on. There was this other story here today. Oh, before we move on completely, let's just do this sidebar story, because speaking of conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, the federal by-election in Alberta's Battle River Crowfoot has set a new Canadian record. That's where Poilievre is running to try to be elected, because he didn't get elected. He lost his seat in the last federal election, and the leader of the Conservative Party now struggling because they now have get this, over 200 candidates registered to run against him. The massive candidate list, largely driven by the Longest Ballot Committee, an electoral reform advocacy group, surpasses the previous record of 91 candidates set in earlier elections. The group aims to highlight flaws in Canada's first-past-the-post system by flooding the ballot with independent candidates, causing delays in vote counting and sparking debate over election rules. Poilievre has called the tactic a scam and is pushing for legislative changes to curb such protests. The by-election, set for August 18th, follows the resignation of MP Damien Currick, allowing Poilievre a chance to return to Parliament after losing his Carleton seat in April. I do have the Elections Canada Twitter or X feed up here, where they posted this just hours ago. Letting voters know that they have to change the kind of ballot they're using now. They're going to use an adapted ballot, because they've never had to deal with anything quite like this before. So they're providing instructions here on how you can vote. Don't do this, don't do that, or your ballot will be deemed spoiled. So they're giving you the rules and what you have to do out there to make sure your vote counts. And you can visit the website, electionscanada.ca. Was that what it was, I believe? Elections.ca. Elections.ca if you have questions and you're in that riding and you want your vote to count in that by-election, you can find all the information you need right there. Now, also tonight, there's this story about this guy on this plane. Well, actually, I already had it up, but that's cool. All right. Plane had to be redirected because this guy, let me just get the facts straight here. So it's an EasyJet flight from London Luton to Glasgow, Scotland, was diverted. It was actually yesterday, because this 41-year-old man had caused panic by claiming he had a bomb, and he was shouting statements including "death to Trump" and "death to America." The incident unfolded mid-flight when the man, who has been identified as Abhay Nayak, emerged from the aircraft's restroom, raised his hands and shouted, "Stop the plane, find the bomb on the plane." He also repeatedly yelled, "Allahu Akbar," which means God is great in Arabic. Passengers were visibly shaken. Someone quickly intervened, tackling and restraining him on the cabin floor. We have the video. This is pretty dramatic, traumatic for anybody who was there, I guess.
The flag! He's going to bomb the flag! Dead to America! Dead to Trump! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar!
Oh my God.
Stop. Sit down. Don't move.
Well, that's not good. Anyway, nobody hurt. So also tonight, President Trump has acknowledged a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza. He stated today there is real starvation in the region and announced U.S. plans to send aid to address the crisis. I believe we have a clip from him as well regarding this. A bit of a change, a bit of a pivot from the president in this regard. And of course, this flies in the face of what we're hearing from Benjamin Netanyahu, who keeps telling people there is no issue regarding hunger in Gaza. But I think at this point, the video coming out of there, the stories from verifiable and credible sources suggest something different, and that there is a humanitarian crisis, and that is because of the tactics being used by Israel to exert pressure on Hamas to release the hostages that are still there. Now, I can shed a little more light on that on the other side of listening to what Trump had to say about this today.
And we're going to continue onward. We do have to take care of the humanitarian needs on what they used to call the Gaza Strip. You don't hear that line too much anymore. You don't hear the Gaza Strip, but it is the Gaza Strip, and it's amazing that it's not being handled a little bit differently. We're going to set up food centers, and we're going to do it in conjunction with some very good people, and we're going to supply funds. And we just took in trillions of dollars. We got a lot of money, and we're going to spend a little money on some food. And other nations are joining us. I know your nation's joining us, and we have all of the European nations joining us, and others also have called, and they want to be helpful. So we're going to set up food centers and where the people can walk in, and no boundaries. We're not going to have fences, and they can't. They see the food from 30 you would say yards away, and they see the food. It's all there, but nobody's at it because they have fences set up that nobody can even get it. It's crazy what's going on over there.
Oh, you guys are doing a lot for me.
At this rural health clinic in California.
Sorry, I need to get out of that. So yesterday, also with regard to this, Trump said Israel has, tough choice to make with regard to the hostages. But, that's been, I think, part of the problem here with Trump is that he's talked tough at times with Hamas, but in the end, he really hasn't done anything with regard to what his stake and the American stake is in the situation over there, because he, he had Americans in Hamas that were held hostage as well. And his approach really was not effective at all in having those Americans returned. Well, there were some, but so many died. And we still have hostages in custody over there. Some on the side of Netanyahu will say that it was the pressure exerted using the current policies and the coercion that they're using that led to the release of the hostages that they have had returned so far. But Trump has really kind of tried to stay arm's length in terms of media optics on this issue, not really accepting full responsibility and not really addressing the weight and the power that he has to affect change over there. Biden, much the same. A lot of what he was doing appeared to be window dressing with that silly dock thing that they spent, I don't know how many millions of dollars on, that was up for just a short period of time, where they were supposed to unload food from ships into Gaza. And it was completely ineffective. I don't think it even worked. And then it was dismantled a short time after Trump came back into office. Just a real mess over in the Middle East. And I don't think that there's real sincerity in much of anything that we're seeing come out of that issue on any side, frankly. But that's my personal opinion. I'm sure you have yours. Also tonight, this alligator Alcatraz story just keeps on coming back. Shocking claims tonight about alligator Alcatraz detention center in Florida, in the Everglades. Hundreds of immigrants reportedly being held, we're hearing tonight, without criminal charges. According to a list of over 700 detainees obtained by the Miami Herald and Tampa Bay Times, more than 250 individuals in the facility, which they're calling Alligator Alcatraz, have no criminal convictions or pending charges in the U.S., only immigration violations, despite claims by President Donald Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis that the center houses vicious criminals. Reports indicate that some detainees, including asylum seekers and a U.S. citizen, are being held in harsh conditions without due process. Tonight, civil rights lawyers in a federal hearing today alleged that detainees are barred from meeting attorneys and that bond hearings have been canceled, raising concerns about constitutional violations. The facility, hastily built on this remote airstrip, has drawn criticism for inhumane conditions, including inadequate food, lack of water, and mosquito infestations. Advocates, including the ACLU, are demanding its closure, with state officials, meanwhile, denying these allegations, insisting the facility meets required standards. That is a story we will continue to follow. Also, you may recall that we've got the whole Gatorade concert that we're trying to organize here to save the gators, which are being, their labor is being exploited because they're leaving it up to the Florida Gators to guard the immigrants and keep them from escaping. They've got all the gators in the moat around the big prison. But as I indicated the other night, 2 nights ago, I have uncovered studies, scientific studies, I'll show you, that prove alligators do become infected with bird flu, just like the ostriches. Only the alligators are even more resilient. They're tougher than ostriches because when they become infected, they become carriers of the disease, but they don't get sick and they don't keel over and croak. And they also lay eggs just like ostriches. And so just like the ostriches, I put it to you that these alligators are extremely valuable for research, extremely valuable, because we need to find a way to extract the antibodies from the alligator eggs, just like the ostriches out in Edgewood, British Columbia. They became sick with the bird flu, but 69 of those ostriches keeled over and croaked. The rest of the flock seems to have survived, at least for now. Are they still infected? Well, they're still out in the open air at the open air biolab, where they were continuously injected with COVID antigens over time, many times over I don't know how many years. So they were being experimented on, which is something you don't really hear about anyplace else, or very few other places. But in any event, the RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, the U.S. administration, they're all getting involved in this. And they put pressure on the Canadian government saying, save the ostriches. And then we saw the big Farm Aid concert where I think about, I don't know, at least 30 people showed up out at the Edgewood Open Air Bio Research Facility for ostriches, all putting pressure on the current administration to just take all those Canadian Food Inspection Agency regulations regarding, the current bird flu mitigation protocols, throw them in the trash, save the ostriches, don't let the prescribed cull to go forward. I say, you've changed my mind. I'm with you. But we have to save those gators. Got to do it. So I put that open call out, the open address to RFK Jr., to Donald Trump, to John Catsimatidis, the multi-billionaire guy out of New York who also has his fingers into agriculture because of his grocery store chain and the oil industry. And he's the biggest purchaser of Canadian oil, and he wants to save the ostriches. Anyway, you know the story. So it's time for Gatorade. Gatorade. And I think Dr. Oz, who was offered to take these ostriches down at his farm in Florida, his ranch, maybe he could host the Gatorade concert, and then we could also liberate the gators from their slave labor at Alligator Alcatraz, because they're not being paid anything and they have to eat rotten fish in the moat. And they can go over there, hang out with the ostriches, because we can deport the ostriches. They can do all the research down there at Dr. Oz's farm. Maybe they can even crossbreed and create a whole new species of creature. What would you call it? I don't know. You got to come up with a name. Anyway, we'll have more about that. I still have to craft a letter to send off, an open letter to the U.S. administration to see if we can save the gators. But that brings me full circle around. Some people think I'm just out to lunch and that my ideas are crazy or something, or that I live this sheltered life. And, maybe I do, because I'm told by Chris in the chat again tonight that I lead this sheltered life. And apparently, too, I'm a creep, because I'm told I creep. I was creeping Facebook pages like Leo's, one of our regular viewers, not so, and also Isabel's. I guess I was creeping the old lady's Facebook page because I was looking at her site where she sells this stuff. This is what Isabel sells. Anyway, they're all mad at me, and that's why they're over on Rumble Channel 2 in the Haters Club. But Isabel, I don't hate you. I do not. Not at all. In fact, you inspire me. So much so, I really, and I'm quite sincere. I do not hate you, Isabel. I do not. I don't want to fight with you. I know that it was a little bit embarrassing when you said some things on this program that kind of exposed maybe some of the misdirection and the misinformation that had created misconceptions in your mind, and maybe attitudes that weren't very becoming of a person as nice as you, frankly, which really shocked me. In any event, I created something just for you. And this, at the end of the program tonight, I'm going to close off with this. This is a new song that we actually been working on for a while. We went to work when Izzy went into a tizzy and got all angry with me because Chris started throwing a lot of highly combustible fuel on a tiny little spark to get Izzy really upset, and it made her dizzy with hatred. So she's over there on Channel 2, Rumble Channel 2, with the haters, joining a long and growing list of people who really hate me. That's okay. I don't hate you guys. And Isabel, I still love you. And I don't creep your Facebook page. But with all of those thoughts in mind, we created this new tune. It's called Dizzy Izzy. It's just for you. Not exclusively because, for the other players, especially Chris, who just loves to stir up crap and really loves to hate me, even though she pretended for a long time to be my friend. That's okay. I don't hate any of you. As far as I'm concerned, you're all still my friends, and somehow I want to win you back. So I start here tonight, Isabel. I don't want to fight with you, and I don't hate you back. I really don't. I don't want to fight. I just want to dance with you, with all of you tonight. So we created Dizzy Izzy, Maverick and the News Brothers. Here you go. See you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern on the flip side.
Spinning round, she shakes me up and throws me down. She got a logic that knocks me out. Come on, baby, twist and shout. Come on, baby, burst my bubble. I'm confused, I'm seeing double. Ooh, is it? Shake it all about. Talk to me, is it? Don't leave no doubt. She walks in with those red high heels, hey! Turning heads and breaking deals. She got a groove I can't ignore. Izzy leaves me begging for more. Come on, baby, burst my bubble. This brain of mine is bound for trouble. Izzy, you intoxicate like a fine wine. Pop my bubble, blow my mind. Oh, you spin me like a record. Yeah, yeah. You shake me down to my soul. My knees are getting weaker. Girl, you're out of control. Izzy, are you dizzy? Hey, and Izzy, are you mine? And I'm dizzy, dizzy, dizzy. You are controlling my mind. Come on, baby, burst my bubble. Let's turn this dance floor into rubble. Ooh, Izzy, shake me straight and proud and tell me what it's all about. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Twist and shout. Oh, Izzy, twist and shout. Come on, baby. Come on now. Tell me what it's all about.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.